to platform or not to platform. I need to make that sound more like, Romeo and Juliet, like to platform or not to platform. Okay, whatever. Anyways, that is the question. And depending on who you are and your platform, you can choose your own rules. No one has to do anything to please anyone. Someone like Mehdi Hassan, he doesn't want to argue with racists and fascists. So he's not going to do it, which that's his prerogative. I have all the respect for someone like a Mehdi Hassan. But then there's other people like Marc Lamont Hill who will continue to go on Piers Morgan and argue with the most ugliest people. Not physically ugly, I mean that too, but like spiritually and just as a person ugly. And that's their prerogative. But I'm all for conversating with problematic people and their views because, one, that helps expose false or misleading ideas or agenda, which the best that is exposed, the better. So when people can see through the BS with good conversation, that helps people. And then two, it exposes people to who they really are. And that's what I hear a lot of people say. Hey, if someone is a real threat to democracy or a racist or a bigot, let them show that. So then people can see it with their own eyes, hear with their own ears that this person is a racist POS. Okay, got you. But none of that means nothing if two things. One, the individual, the problematic person doesn't care about being honest, doesn't care about public opinion, and is okay with being that POS. Like Nick Fuentes, he doesn't care if half the country thinks he's a racist POS. If anything, I think he thrives off that type of negativity. He wants that type of publicity, and then two, the person interviewing is not credible or knowledgeable to challenge someone like a Nick Fuentes. I don't want a Piers Morgan who on his own is a problematic person. I want someone like a Mehdi Hassan or a Marc Lamont Hill, even a Hassan Piker. Give me someone who's credible and can directly attack the BS. And like I said, during my coverage of that interview, Piers didn't do the worst, but it could have been way better. And it only was a net positive for someone like a Nick Fuentes. He didn't lose fans off of that interview. If anything, it only made him more popular. And that is a problem, especially in 2025 and beyond. We need somehow, some way to hold people accountable. And we need to stop platforming them as if they're celebrities and they're just racist pieces of shit. That is not cute. That should not make you a celebrity because you claim to be a racist. No. Stop platforming these people. But that's just my opinion. But let's go ahead, hear this conversation. This is
virgin until he's married.
Marc Lamont Hill, this weirdo here, and Glenwald, I think his name. I don't really care about this guy, but let's go ahead and hear this conversation. Once again, I don't like Piers Morgan. I'm only here for Marc Lamont Hill, and once again, when Marc Lamont Hill is speaking, he is speaking with facts and fire, and that's the only reason. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation.
No, but that wasn't. Yeah, okay. But just to be clear again, that was not my intention. My intention was to ask him, in all sincerity, if you grow up in an environment at home where there is clear racism that you have discussed yourself on your own show, very unarguably, you can't listen to the clip. I played it earlier without realizing that's what he's saying. Then is that relevant to the way he is? Let me bring in Marc Lamont Hill here. I mean, Marc, I didn't do that lightly. I had decided before I did the interview that I would do a lot of research into this. I would find all the clips that I felt were the most incendiary things he'd said on the record, and I would ask him and push him about them in a way that I don't think anyone else has really done. And it would be interesting to see the way he responded. And if you're going to talk to Nick Fuentes, who openly admits to being a racist, he did it again with me in the show, that anecdote to me was pertinent to why he may have shaped those views. What do you think? Was it unfair?
I think the anecdote was entirely fair and necessary, particularly since, the first part of the interview was very much about his biography. It was very much about what shaped him. He himself volunteered information, even in that interview, about his parents, about how they came together, about, the loss of their fathers, etc. All that to me is fair game. I agree that invoking his father's name in that moment was too far. I hear you saying if you could do it again, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because I do have some ethical and moral reservations about doxing. I don't.
So even with that, I understand the efficacy of not naming people's names, especially like relatives and parents and things like that. I get that. So don't mischaracterize my argument here. But when it comes to someone like a Nick Fuentes, who is a hateful person and like literally demonizes everyone who's not white. He built his career on being a hateful person. I'm sorry, I don't give two shits about anyone naming your dad. I don't care. Like, you are a hateful person. I don't care about doxing your dad. Don't care. Which Piers said, like, this is easy Google, you can Google search who his parents are. But at the same time, don't sit here and be like, oh, can you please respect my parents? And you don't respect other human beings. I'm sorry. You don't get that from me. You show respect, you get respect. If you don't show it, you ain't gonna get it. So I'm tired of people like, oh my God, like, we need to show respect to his parents. No, all that's out the window. I'm sorry. Let's continue.
I don't think it's wrong, for example, if someone does something awful in public and it's relevant to the public interest to track down their job and notify their job. But that's not the same thing as tracking down every private citizen just because we think they're racist or sexist or anti-Semitic or homophobic. I may think you're that thing, but you have a right to be that thing, even though I think it's awful. And I don't think you should live without safety because of that. Now, there's a bigger question, Piers, that you raised at the top of the interview, and it's come up again in the media, and that is, should you even be talking to this guy?
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, Piers, I've struggled with this. I interview controversial people. I sit down with people who people say don't platform them, and I take seriously your point that they already have a platform. And I'm not making them big. I'm not drawing attention to them. They already have the attention. They're just not being questioned or challenged on that platform. I concede that point. I agree with you fully. The problem with this guy, the problem with Nick Fuentes in particular, though, to me, is he's such a chameleon and he moves in such a way that I'm not sure holding him accountable matters to his base. And he does just enough to look moderate and normal and reasonable that I think he'll do more damage by sneaking some people from the middle and dragging them to his side because they think he's reasonable and only later find out that he's a sexist, misogynist, Hitler-loving Nazi, right? Or whatever he is, right? That's where the danger comes for me. I'm not saying we should interview controversial people. I'm just saying this particular guy, I feel like we're playing into his interests and his angle.
Now, that right there is nothing but bars. Straight, pure bars. Like, Nick Fuentes does not care about being held accountable. He doesn't care about trying to come together to some sort of, agreement that we need to respect people, disregarding how you feel about them. Can you respect people? Can you not say hateful things about a group of people like everyone? He doesn't care about that. So trying to have a logical conversation with someone who's illogical doesn't make any logical sense. Why? Why talk about ethics with someone who proudly says that they are a Nazi, they are racist, and Hitler was a cool guy? There's nothing There's no what conversation can you have besides tell me how you think Hitler was cool or something, which is going to lead down to a pointless conversation. So Mark is right. Like, what's the benefit if interviewing someone who's going to be disingenuous and hateful at the same time? Zero. You get zero benefits out of that.
Yeah, well, Glenn Greenwald, welcome back to Uncensored. You've had Fuentes on your show. What's your view about that issue, about platforming him at all?
Oh, I didn't even consider it to be a difficult question at all. I mean, if you're going to have people on who are responsible for the invasion and destruction of Iraq based on lies, or the incineration of Vietnam, or the destruction of Gaza and the death of tens of thousands of people, and welcome them and treat them like respectable people, tell me what it is that Nick Fuentes has done remotely as bad as that justifies allowing them to come on and speak, but not him. And whether you like it or not, he does speak for a huge number of people in his generation, and even other generations as well, who feel the same kind of anger and frustration with the status quo, with the establishment, with the kind of dogma that we've been told we have to accept. And there's a lot of people who are angry about it and who rebel against it. And we saw this with Donald Trump on maybe a little bit of a smaller scale, but very much the same pattern. When Donald Trump appeared, everybody was like, oh, he's racist and fascist and he's the misogynist and he's this and that. And no one wanted to grapple with the reason why his message was resonating so much. And to me, it is very similar to Nick Fuentes. Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. Like, he's very informed. He's not just some sensationalist babbling on the internet. And I think the reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid.
No. Sorry. I'm sorry. I tried to let that run. I know a lot of people say, hey, guy, you talk too much. It's like, hey, this is political commentary. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here, okay? But it's just hard to allow the BS to continue to spew out of their mouths. One, Nick Fuentes, you can't say, okay, this person, interviewing Benjamin Netanyahu, who is responsible for killing tens of thousands of Palestinian people. I hold them in the same regard as a Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is brainwashing young people with his ignorance, with his hatefulness, with his racism, with his bigotry, and then these people are going to feed off that. They're going to eat off that as if it's gospel truth, and they're going to act upon it. That is dangerous to me. If anything, like someone who doesn't have to fire a single shot at anyone, but can mobilize people into like a cult type of environment to act on their behalf, that's more dangerous, if anything. Like, what are we talking here? So we got to go in the same regard, in the same energy, as if we're talking to a Benjamin Netanyahu, to a Nick Fuentes. They're influential people for the wrong reasons. So, like, what are we talking about here? There's nothing cool about that.
A lot of people, and to stick your head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to pretend that this isn't happening because his views are too off, but the people who start wars or are responsible for the 2008 financial crisis, these are respectable people who we treat with respect, like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever. That, to me, is the kind of thing that I think is really distorted.
Yeah, Warren Smith. I'll respond to that. Well, no, let me bring in Warren Smith first, and then I'll come back to you, Mark. Warren, that really is my feeling about it. Is that you can let these guys like Fuentes and Andrew Tate run riot, and they do already, and they have massive followings, millions and millions of young men. I know when I interview Tate, the number of young men who just come up to me in the street to ask about it is off the charts, more than almost any other guest I ever have. So we can either pretend this phenomenon isn't happening, and Fuentes is a phenomenon, whether people like it or not. And I don't hate everything about him. There were elements of that interview where it was a genuinely quite interesting conversation. But there were elements which, either because he wanted to be performative and shocking and...
No, see, I hate that. I hate when we try to normalize that. Like, I didn't hate everything about the conversation. We had a pretty good... no. He as a black man in America, he said most black people need to be in prison. No detail, no facts, no reason why, or at least a credible reason why. He just said majority of black folks need to be imprisoned. How as a real black man, okay, a black man with a spine, a black man with 10 toes standing on business, how am I supposed to respond to something like that? Oh man, this is a very interesting conversation. No, that's not how that works. But all these white folks, besides Marc, are like, yeah, yeah. Well, besides this guy right here, he's pretty cool. But everyone else is like, he's a very interesting person. No, that's hateful. That's a hateful person. That's a racist person. Ain't nothing cute about that. Ain't nothing phenomenal about that. So I'm sorry, Piers. We can't normalize that type of bigotry. Can't do it.
Attention seeking, whatever it may be, or because he really believes it, where I felt we saw a pretty dark underbelly of some of his beliefs. Just when somebody just says, I am a racist, and then explains, let me play the clip first, then come to you. You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically
because
sure
my father's.
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist.
I thought it was an interesting contradiction there, which he was probably calculating in real time, that having got so exercised about the idea that his father was racist, he then said everyone's racist and there's nothing wrong with it, effectively. But putting that to one side, Warren, this issue of whether you platform somebody like Fuentes, who has these inflammatory views, I think we can all agree they're inflammatory, a lot of his views. Am I, by doing it, am I continuing to fuel this phenomenon in a way that is a negative for society? Or in a free democratic society, should I be entitled to interview who the hell I like, as long as I do my job as a journalist of holding him to account over these things, let other people work it out for themselves?
No, I think it's total.
This guy in a blue shirt, I don't know, once again, just ignorant. Like damn, man, they just find all these weirdos on the internet, but they don't come to a real dude like myself. But okay, it's not about me. Okay, it's not about me. But Piers makes a good question. And to answer his question is, this is a free country. You can have whatever views that you want. But that doesn't mean your ass is free from consequences. If you are a hateful person, I think people need to have integrity in regards to their platform. They need to respect their audience in such a measure and have principle. And when platforms can do that, they are naturally going to decline people like Nick Fuentes. Because we believe that as a society, because we all need to live in harmony with one another, we as a society need to respect decorum. We need to respect and understand that is the foundation to a healthy country. And when people try to go against that, we need to politely say, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't invite you on my show because I love my audience way too much. I respect their time, and I don't want you to even plant a seed of racism, of bigotry, or misinformation. I don't want to do that. I don't want to partake into that. No, not all interviews are good interviews, Piers. I know you want the clicks. I know you want the attention, but not all interviews are worth it. I'm sorry. Having principles, having integrity means something. But no, that's not the day and age that we're living in, unfortunately. Got you.
Totally understandable and I agree that.
But let's listen to this idiot right here. Okay, damn man, get a shirt that fits you. Okay, all that you're wearing like a shirt that's 2 sizes too big, bruh. Like damn man, if you're gonna be on camera, man, find a shirt that fits you. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take that personal. Okay, I take it back. Okay, let's listen to what you got to say.
Themselves.
No, I think it's totally understandable, and I agree that you would have him on. I was in the same position where I was genuinely shocked when I made a knee-jerk response video to something he had said. I was overwhelmed by the response. I was like, I had no idea there were this many people out there that agreed with him. And I had people that I knew actually telling me, no, you're oversimplifying this. And I actually went back and looked at the same clip and realized I had oversimplified it. I was looking at it through the narrative, going into it without much prior research. And that actually led to me sitting down with him for an hour and a half. And I think it's important, though, if you want to achieve the ideal outcome, it is important to actually genuinely be trying to gain a better understanding of his reasoning and in his arguments, and not just trying to win or embarrass, because in the long run, I think that will backfire and that will cause him to become bigger.
I don't get it. I don't get it. What do we need to understand about him? It's not like we don't know who this guy is. He has his own show somewhere on the internet. He explains it day by day. So it's not too much curiosity on trying to figure out who he is. Like, dang, this is a very mysterious person. I got to interview him. No, he's a racist. He's a bigot. What more do you need to understand from that? What more do you need to learn from that? If you want to learn about racism and bigotry, pick up a history book. It's plenty of history about people like that. But no, people only do it because they know it's going to bring in views. They know it's going to get them some numbers on the internet. That's what they do. They only want to please the entire net. It's not trying to, oh man, I really want to get into his head and figure him out. No, watch his videos. He tells you all about himself. So I don't buy that at all. Because if Mehdi Hassan wanted to be like that, he is the best debater out there. He would have platform full of people like Nick Fuentes. But no, Mehdi Hassan has principles, integrity, standards. I know that word scares a lot of people, but it actually means something. And if you stand on that, you be like, you know what? I ain't got time for that. I ain't gonna platform this racist, no facial hair having, virgin being individual. I ain't got time for that. I got real problems to solve. And platforming a racist is not going to solve racism. It's not. I'm sorry. We done been there, tried that. So let's be honest.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. People were asking me,
Oh, yeah, and that's the end of it, because then they just going to get into some old bullshit. And Marc Lamont Hill only talks like one other time for like 15 seconds. And then they cut him off and then let these other idiots talk. And to be honest, I ain't got time like that. I ain't got time to be hearing people's excuses on wanting to interview a racist. Like, no, interview our congressmen. Interview the people who hold power and resources and ask them the hard questions. If you want to really interview someone that can make change, do that. If you want to be a real journalist, one, take your ass to school, figure out how to do that correctly, not following someone like Piers Morgan, not a journalist by far. He's an entertainer. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. He is not a journalist. So if you want to hold people accountable that actually means something, start there. But interviewing a random racist is not going to solve anything. I'm sorry. It's not. That's simple.
See how you doing the pressure. I've been wanted this pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy.